All right. Everybody having a good time so far? Pretty interesting presentations, right? All right, our next featured presentation is a educator here at the National Air and Space Museum, possibly the best educator at the National Air and Space Museum. And I'm talking about myself. So, I don't know if you, any of you read the schedule of programming for today, or if you were paying attention to Dr. Valerie Neal when she was talking about some of the ways women contributed to the space program. But I'm going to give a little talk here today about toilet training, going to the bathroom in space. So if you folks over there can't see, you might want to move over a little bit. See if we can get this down. This is an example of a shuttle toilet. This is what's called a waste collection system, or WCS. This is a reproduction. This is not a real space toilet. Nobody has ever used it before other than educational purposes, but it does work, okay? I can turn it on. You might be able to hear that. But we use this as an educational tool to educate our visitors how astronauts and cosmonauts go to the bathroom in space. Where can you get one of these? Not Home Depot. The shuttles, when they were going into low Earth orbit, each had one of these on board. The International Space Station currently has 2 space toilets on board, one of which can recycle liquid waste into potable or usable, that is, drinking water. There are some main differences between, say, a space toilet and your toilet at home. It looks a little different, right? Well, this one uses air instead of gravity and water to move waste away from the user and down where you want to store it. Why do you think it might use air to move the waste? Any guesses? Speak up. Microgravity environment. Does that mean there's no gravity in space? Absolutely not. Gravity exists everywhere in the universe. It's really what holds, you know, the International Space Station in orbit around Earth. It's what holds the moon orbiting around the Earth. It's what holds Earth orbiting around the sun. It's what holds our solar system together, right? So gravity exists in space, but everything is in a free fall. Everything is falling at the same rate, so it seems like that sensation of gravity doesn't exist. So we have to use air pressure to get the waste, whether it's liquid or solid, to move away from the user and down into the storage container. Now, this toilet, unlike yours, has 2 storage containers. Your toilet at home might have 1 container. That's the commode, right? Well, this one has a commode. Okay, only solid waste is allowed to go in here, though. This also has what's called a urinal hose, and liquid waste goes in here. Now, if I say number 1 and number 2, does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, good. I don't want to get too vulgar here. So if you have to go number 1, you would use the urinal hose. If you have to go number 2, you would use the commode. Only solid waste, as I said, can go into here. Another difference between this and your toilet at home is this one has a lot of controls. Lots of controls. So there's basically an on-off switch. Does your toilet at home have an on-off switch? No, it doesn't, right? There are lots of controls here to control the pumps that power the shuttle toilet. You also have a switch over here that switches it into the right setup so that you can actually use it. This toilet is used for other things other than just going to the bathroom. This toilet also filters the air, moving this particular toilet would filter the air moving through the shuttle, so all of the air circulating through the shuttle, through the living and working space, would be circulated through the toilet. Don't worry, it has a air filter for that specific purpose. So it's got a lot of controls. It's powered, it's electric. You saw me plug in the cord, okay? Your toilet at home basically has one control, right? It's that little silver handle on the side that you use to flush the toilet, okay? How many people have a seat belt on their toilet at home? How many people need a seat belt on their toilet at home? That's probably another problem. Anyway, this has what's called a restraint system. Why would you need a restraint system to use the toilet? So you don't float away. Remember that scientist Newton? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so any movement while you were sitting on the toilet would push back at you and you would move away from the toilet. Try one time today, not in the bathroom, just standing anywhere, and think about how many muscles you use just standing there. You use a lot of muscles just trying to stay in one place. Well, the same thing would happen here. You'd start to move, any muscle movement would start to move you off of the toilet. So the toilets have a restraint system. And this particular shuttle toilet has a lap restraint. You would just pull that up and over your thighs. It has thigh restraints. And it has foot restraints. Now, not all astronauts used the restraint system. The ceiling above this thing is about here, so some of them just pushed on the ceiling to hold themselves down, okay? And if you're standing up to go number one, there's a toe restraint. Both men and women can stand up to go to the bathroom, okay? Now, I think one of the biggest differences between this toilet, between a space toilet and your toilet at home, do any of you adults know how much you paid for, say, a brand new toilet that you recently put into your bathroom? Couple of $100? Okay, I was just on Home Depot's website the other day and saw that the average toilet cost around $500 to $600. Anybody want to take a guess as to how much the toilet on the International Space Station cost? $3,000. Do I hear more? $4,000. Let's go bigger increments. $5,000. Let's go bigger. $1 million. How many people say it's more than $1 million? How much do you say? $3 million. Okay. Well, we could probably go on all day. Did you have an answer? $40 million. How many people would pay $40 million for a toilet that worked in space? Well, the International Space Station toilet, and we have a real good idea of how much this cost because we actually had to purchase the most recent one in 2008 from the Russian Space Agency. That cost $19 million. Yeah, pretty expensive, right? But the reason we purchased the toilet from the Russians was because the American-made model is a little more expensive. The American-made model is $30 million, so you were very close. $30 million for a working space toilet. And we happen to know this because the General Accounting Office of the United States government, back when Endeavor was getting a shuttle toilet, a waste collection system, they estimated that the cost of the toilet with research and all of that, all of which goes into developing a space toilet, they estimated the cost of this thing to the taxpayers was $30 million. Is that a lot? Absolutely. But remember, this thing cannot break down, especially if you're on the space shuttle. There was only one toilet on the space shuttle. And if it broke down, you had some serious issues. Okay? Now, only one time in the history of the program did the shuttle toilet break down where the toilet was completely unusable, and that was during STS-3, so that was early on in the 30-year career of the shuttle program. Astronauts, there were only 2 astronauts on board Columbia at that time, were not able to fix it. Since then, during the rest of the shuttle program, it broke down less than a handful of times, and each time the astronauts were able to fix it. So that $30 million seems to me to be money pretty well spent. Okay, so some major components we've already talked about with the toilet. We have the restraint system, commode, urinal hose, foot deck, controls, air filter. There are also two pumps in the back of this. You only used one pump at a time. The other pump was for redundancy in case something broke down. You had a backup system, and that pump generated the low pressure area inside the toilet. You had higher pressure area outside the toilet, low pressure inside, and that moved the air from the living and working space of the shuttle into the toilet. So the air only moved in one direction, okay? So, how do astronauts go to the bathroom in space? Let's talk about going number one first, shall we? Okay, so the first thing you had to do was you had to negotiate the controls down here. You had to make sure that the vacuum pump was on. You had to make sure that the correct fan separator was on. So that would be the first thing the astronaut would do. The astronaut would float over to the toilet, make sure the controls were in the right position. The next thing they would do, if they're going number one, they would connect their own personal funnel to the urinal hose. So the funnel would go right on there. Astronauts had their own funnel. They did not share funnels. Sharing a funnel in space is a no-no. Once they connected their funnel, they would turn it on, and that started the air moving through the toilet. You can hear that humming, I think. Then they would loosen any garments that are necessary and stick their toes underneath the toe restraint, or if they wanted to sit down while they were going number one, they would use a restraint system, and they would go number one. Once they were done, they would clean themselves and the toilet off. All paper and rubber products went into a trash can that astronauts called the coffee can, which was also connected to the shuttle toilet. And then they would remove the little trash bag and dispose of their trash. Going number one was pretty easy. Going number two required basically 2 pages of instructions. So once again, you had to make sure, going number two, make sure that all of the controls were set in the proper setting. You would then make sure that the WCS was turned in the on position. Now, most astronauts I've talked to, when they say they have to go number two in space, a lot of them remove all of their clothing, because going to the bathroom in space can be messy. And if you don't position yourself absolutely correctly on the commode, you can have things coming back at you. So a lot of astronauts will keep their clothing outside of the waste compartment so that nothing gets soiled, because you don't have too many changes of clothing during a mission. So once you got everything on and in the right setting, the astronaut would have a seat, utilize the restraint system, or press themselves against the ceiling there, and then they would defecate into the commode, okay? Now, this doesn't generally take much longer than it would here on Earth. It's the preparation to do this that takes a little while. So you want to make sure that you plan your day out, okay? You can't have to go to the bathroom very quickly, because this takes a little while to set up. Once the astronaut was done going to the bathroom on this, they would clean themselves up, clean the toilet up, stash all of their trash into the coffee can, and then dispose of the trash bag inside the coffee can. So it wasn't too terribly difficult. So as we said, this thing didn't break down very often, but when it did, you had to have a backup plan if you couldn't fix this. So the backup plan, and Valerie Neal talked a little bit about it, don't get nervous, talked a little bit about the adult diapers that astronauts wore. Well, this is one of them. Although astronauts don't call this an adult diaper. They call it a maximum absorbency garment. Sounds a lot more interesting now, doesn't it? So when we're all old enough that we have to be using this, we can call it a maximum absorbency garment. I have a quick video that shows about the training that goes on with the toilet. This is rated G.
You always get these questions when you go speak to schools. You know, how do you live in space? How do you sleep? How do you eat? And the most popular question of all time, guess what it is?
Probably how to go to the bathroom.
How do you go to the bathroom in space? We're going to find that out today here with Scott, is going to tell us.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Well, actually,
So what are we doing?
do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, do you guys have, yeah, if you don't mind,
Well,
yeah, do the whole thing.
Do you want to explain the practice part of this?
Yes, there's the real, we have the real
Right.
toilet,
Right.
and then we
We
have
can't
the
use
practice toilet.
We have the practice.
But Scott, were you going to get to that, or are you going to, what are you going to do?
Yeah, here's Scott.
I
You can explain.
would normally skip it during the refresher, but if you want to cover it.
You have to cover it.
That's covered. You want to cover it now, or do you want to?
Oh, I'll do it now.
All right, go ahead. Do it now, Scott.
Particularly based on what you just said.
Right.
Because that is our functional trainer. That one can be used.
This one over here.
That's right. That's where we're going to spend most of our time because that one can be used.
You guys are going to use that.
We could use
You could use it before.
We're not going to use it today. For you.
No.
If you do it in this one, I'm going to be upset.
No, you don't want to do it in that one because why?
This is our positional trainer. So you can see there's a TV monitor here.
There's a TV monitor there.
There's a camera inside the hole.
That's correct.
You'll notice the hole here is 4 inches,
The hole is 4 inches?
whereas a normal toilet seat is more like 12 or 18 inches.
What's a normal? You mean like the one you have in your house?
That's right.
All right.
So there is a camera inside that hole. And as he said, that's a positional trainer. The other one is just like this. They can use it to go to the bathroom. That is a positional trainer, and the reason they don't want you to use that one to train on to actually go to the bathroom is because of that expensive camera in the bowl. It's a closed-circuit program, so nobody else sees it, but they do train for hours on these positional and functional toilets. Now, remember I had said that this didn't break down very often? Well, we have this top left picture over here is from the Apollo program, and it was used during the Shuttle program as well. This is a fecal containment device. If the toilet broke down, you basically, it's like a large sandwich bag, and you taped it to your rear end. It had a little pocket inside of it so that you could help move the solid waste away from you and down into the bag. Because remember, you don't have air flowing through that bag, so you have to move all of the waste down and away from you. So this thing, with its 2 pages worth of instructions, is a lot more friendly than having to use that bag. Because once you've gone to the bathroom in it, you can see there's a little black pouch next to it. That's a biocide. You had to squeeze the biocide into the bag, seal the bag, and then squish the bag all around to manipulate that biocide in there to kill everything in the bag, okay? And that bottom left-hand picture is a urine collection device. Once again, a tube would be connected to that bag, and you would urinate into the bag and then physically move the urine down the tube and away from you. So the first priority when the toilet goes down is fix it, because the options are not very easy to do.